could unmute myself for now. Alan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, I had Doobie on the phone, so trying to get things going. I need to make you a host.
Okay, now I'm here.
Why do I not see you? Oh, there you are. All right, I'm gonna hang up so we can talk on the just strictly through the Zoom.
Okay, this
Well, we don't
Doobie.
need to record it right now, do we?
Let me pause the recording.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Doobie Gordon, and I am chair of the Israel Action Committee at Temple Israel of Natick. And we are thrilled to have an extraordinary program here with Michael Ordman talking about very good news about Israel. And Temple Israel's Israel Action Committee has been going strong for north of 20 years. We're definitely the Chalon Re'eva, as we say in Hebrew, or the showcase window for the conservative movement, and definitely one of the most active in the country. And we are thrilled to be more than 20 plus members on our Israel Action Committee. We're a very definitely pro-Israel congregation that's passionate about Israel. And we have, before COVID at any rate, probably about 100 people going to Israel on an annual basis. So we're very proud to be Zionist here. And we're thrilled to have another program here, the first program of 2022. This is the annual Deanne Stone breakfast that we're starting here this morning. And this is north of 15 years already we've been doing this. Deanne used to be on the Israel Action Committee, and she was president of Sisterhood. And so we started this breakfast many, many years ago, and it's been going strong ever since. We've had some exceptional speakers. Usually it's sitting around a couple hundred people inside our social hall and having a sumptuous breakfast put on by Sisterhood. Given the times, hopefully everybody has a bagel and cream cheese or a protein shake or whatever you have for your breakfast, and enjoying this great program. Okay, just a few thank yous, and then I'm going to introduce Karen Block, one of the past presidents of Temple Israel Sisterhood. And then Cheryl Lerner, who will give a few announcements from Sisterhood. So first, I want to thank very much to Masha and Alan Stein for bringing us Michael Ordman, for connecting us, for definitely being the spearhead here and the connectors and making this program happen. So thank you very much, Alan and Masha. I want to thank very much to Anne Green for exceptional PR, as she has always done before. I know we were in a lot of people's newsletters throughout the different organizations. Want to thank Dave Lehman here. Thank you so much. One of our members of our Israel Action Committee, who is doing all the duties here and making sure this Zoom room really runs smoothly. And want to thank very much Javi for helping to support this extraordinary breakfast program for all these years. And definitely, we will be hearing from you in a few minutes, but we definitely miss Deanne so much. And she's felt every time that we do this program, not just on this day, but many days. Want to thank very much Sisterhood, the liaison for Israel Action, Debbie Bruce, and to all those who are connected with Sisterhood that every year really make an extraordinary effort in making this a wonderful program. I think that's all my thank yous at the moment. Maybe I'll think of some others afterwards. And so thank you all so much. And I'm going to turn it over to Karen Block, past president of Temple Israel Sisterhood. And I know she's been in many regional, maybe national spotlights as well. And over to you, Karen. Greetings from Sisterhood.
Good morning to everybody. I wish we were sitting around our tables having coffee and delicious bagels and lox together, but hopefully next year. So welcome on behalf of Sisterhood. We are an affiliate of Women's League for Conservative Judaism. And let's have a cup of coffee together and enjoy this program. I want to thank Harvey for your continued support of this event, honoring the memory of your dear wife and my good friend, Deanne. Deanne, as Doobie mentioned, was a past president of Sisterhood and she was passionate about Israel and about science. She was the US representative at the Weizmann Institute in Israel and was honored by them as well. Deanne was also passionate about Tikkun Olam. So in her memory, please consider placing a non-perishable food item in the stock the shelves bins, which are in the hallway opposite the coat room whenever you come into the temple, and hopefully we'll be progressing towards moving towards coming in more often with a little luck. So please consider doing that, because your generosity will help stock the shelves of our local food pantries. And we all know in this difficult time how many of our neighbors are really suffering, and we see how food prices are going up. So anything you can contribute is certainly welcome. And that certainly would go a long way to commemorating Deanne's memory. So thank you for being here today, for helping to honor her memory, and enjoy the program.
Great. Thank you very much, Karen. And now over to Cheryl Lerner.
Good morning, everybody. Just want to let you know about a few upcoming programs with Sisterhood. We've been meeting very successfully over the whole duration of COVID, staying together, and it's been wonderful. And we don't have to go out and drive in the cold, so it's been good. We are continuing our series of Taste of Sisterhood on the first Thursday of every month. It's a very quick half hour, starting at 7, ending at 7:30, 7:35. This year we're going around the world, touring different Jewish communities. And last month we had the privilege of hearing from Kurt Linden, who told us about his coming out of Germany to the United States through Shanghai. It was a fabulous program. On February 3rd, we're having a program featuring the foods of South Africa, and our own president, Alana Berlitz, was going to speak to us for a few minutes, not as long a presentation as Kurt was able to do, about life in South Africa, and that should be very exciting. On February 15th, for all of you who have started projects of cleaning out your homes and getting everything organized during COVID and haven't quite made it, we have a professional organizer coming to help us. Her name is Avery Aranti, and she's managing 4 little fellows in her own house, so she's very experienced at doing this. And I think she'll give us some good tips so we can finally get those projects done and completed. So hope to see you then. And that's on the 15th at 8 p.m. on Zoom. And the links will be posted on the Constant Contact coming from the temple. Thank you. And if you have recipes from South Africa or any of the other communities in Africa and would like to share them with us, please send them to me by the end of next week. And I'm just going to post my email address on the chat. Thank you. Hope to see you.
Thank you very much, Cheryl, and thank you for the excellent programming that Sisterhood provides for our community and our congregation. So that's excellent. Thank you. Okay, and now over to Javi Stone, who will be speaking about his beloved wife, Deanne Stone.
It's hard to believe that it's 15 years since Deanne died. She was very active in the Jewish community, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally, both as a volunteer and a professional. And she was a strong supporter of Israel. She enjoyed working with people, and they enjoyed working with her. She had a strong impact on many people whose lives she touched. Deanne was born in Connecticut. At the time of her death, Joe Lieberman was the US Senator from Connecticut. He read her obituary into the congressional record to honor her memory and to acknowledge it. This is a copy of the Senate congressional record. I want to thank Doobie Gordon and the Israeli Action Committee and Sisterhood for keeping her memory alive with this annual event.
Thank you very much, Javi. Appreciate that. And I know that Deanne was so active in so many different aspects of our congregation. I know she was very much involved with Yamin Ord as well, another extraordinary institute in Israel that she was very passionate about. And definitely working with the raising funds and all for the victims from the both intifadas and what have you. May her memory be for a blessing. Okay, thank you once again, Javi. Okay, next up is Alan Stein or Masha Stein or both the Steins, who will be giving an introduction to Michael Ordman. Thank you once again for introducing us to Michael. And doesn't look like it's raining in Netanya to me out there, but okay.
Thanks. First of all, Marcia and I want to thank all our friends in Natick for your prayers for rain because they've been very effective. It's been raining all day today. I just hope it pauses so I can play tennis tomorrow night. Michael Ordman, our speaker today, lived in London with his wife, Lynette, where they were very active fighting anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, particularly the horrible anti-Israel bias of the BBC, until the hostile atmosphere in Britain drove them to make Aliyah in 2007. When they made Aliyah, Michael decided he wanted to spend his time with the good rather than obsessing over the anti-Israel bias, and began devoting his energy to collecting and disseminating good news about Israel. He now distributes his blog every Sunday in several languages and using several different electronic vehicles. Marcia and I were reading his newspaper before we found that he was actually a neighbor, and we become good friends. We often run into each other walking to shul on Shabbat. Since he passes our Masorti or conservative synagogue, Beit Israel, on the way to his Orthodox synagogue, Young Israel of North Netanya, which is across the street from our apartment. Sometimes I think we should switch shuls. I think you'll be inspired hearing all the good news he'll tell you about this morning. I encourage you to subscribe to his newsletter with an email to michael.goodnewsisrael@gmail.com. He'll put it up during his talk, or using a link to the Good News from Israel blog, Very Good News Israel.blogspot.com. If you're inspired enough to support his important work, particularly paying for translations in a variety of languages, check the blog for information. Marcia and I make tax-deductible contributions through Americans United with Israel. Good News Israel is a labor of love for Michael, as will soon be obvious. He'll present just a sample of recent good news he's compiled, and he'll then take some questions, which you can type in the Q&A on Zoom. No political questions, please. And as you probably noticed, Michael's presentation is being recorded. And now, without further ado, here is Michael.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning, everybody. If you're zooming in from the States, or good afternoon if you are in Israel or the UK. I just want to check, first of all, that you can see. I'm going to share the screen for most of this presentation. Just want to make sure that you will be able to see it. Just a second. I'm just going to go back on this one. Right, ready to share now. I'm going to share.
It's
Looks
there.
great.
You see it.
Right,
You see it.
good. And I want to check the sound in a minute, just on something that I'm showing before. Can you see that? Can you hear that?
Yes.
Barely, but the screen is gray.
Let Let me just check again. I'll stop the share and restart the share for that. Because I think, yeah, it should be okay. Right. Okay, and right, okay. Stop the share again, just a minute.
I think it takes 3 times for it to work, Michael.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully I get it right. Okay, let's go from this and hopefully it will come up. When we get to the first video, if you can't hear it, I'll stop and start and see if it works again. Okay, so let me share screen now. Okay, you should be seeing Beyond Imagination.
And we do.
Thank you. Okay, as Alan said, my name is Michael Ordman. I'm the editor of Very Good News Israel, a newsletter that each week highlights around 50 recent news stories that show Israel and Israelis in a positive light, with no politics. I have many sources of news that I spend much time checking, and I check each article to verify its factual accuracy. My work is mostly filtering out the good news stories and translating the technical details into just 3 lines of text for each article that most readers will understand and appreciate. In 2007, I retired at the relatively young age of 50 from working as a computer security manager at a major UK bank. And I made Aliyah with my wife Lynette to Netanya, where we met, as you heard, Marsha and Alan Steen, who I'm sure most of you know. The title of my presentation is Beyond Imagination, which I feel encapsulates each story that I select for my newsletter. Israel is a tiny country of less than 10 million people. When you look on a map for it, it's actually the size of New Jersey or Lake Michigan. It was reborn less than 74 years ago and has had to fight for its very existence during most of those years. Who would imagine that it is responsible for so many innovations and activities that benefit the world we live in? I won't bore you with any other details, but my focus is to share some of those amazing articles with you. Some of them are quite personal. But please ask me any questions at the end of the presentation. And I apologize if I talk too fast in my British accent. There's just so many amazing examples that could take us beyond the 45 minutes that I have available. So you may want to just sit back and imagine all the possibilities. My newsletter is split into 6 categories, but I only have time to give examples of the first 3 in this presentation. I'll start with the medical category. The articles I've selected cover some of the most pressing medical issues affecting modern society, first being cancer. And we'll start with the Israeli-invented CAR-T cancer treatment, which is currently curing 40% of lymphoma patients in the UK who are otherwise untreatable and terminal. Can you hear that?
Barely here, and the screen is gray.
No, can't hear it.
Let me stop the share and restart it then. Let's try again. Hang on. I've got the right one. Stop. Share screen. I'm doing the video now. Let me see if you can hear that.
The white fluid inside is one of the world's most advanced forms of cancer treatment.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
CAR-T.
CAR T cells are immune cells that we get from the patient's blood, and we actually insert a gene into those cells, which give them the ability to recognize tumor cells, and which also makes them much more aggressive.
CAR T therapy is an Israeli invention, which only went into clinical trials in the past couple of years. Worldwide trials have given an 83% full remission rate, even among terminal cases.
Right. It's a bit hydraulic. Okay, that was 3 years ago. And the cost of each patient was almost $1 million. But then an Israeli biotech, Avdo, built a machine that dramatically reduced the cost of making CAR T cells. It automatically extracts blood from the patient, grows huge numbers of T cells, and puts them back into infusion bags for putting back into the patient, all done with the patient sitting there. There are other FDA-approved Israeli treatments for ovarian cancer, multiple myeloma, breast cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and prostate cancer that are saving many lives today. The first Israeli patient to have her breast cancer altered by ice cures tumor freezing was a 102-year-old woman. Imagine that. Many Israeli cancer treatments are currently in phase 3 human trials. They target pancreatic cancer, blood cancers, most solid cancers, and multiple myeloma. Some of these Israeli developments are almost science fiction. Artificial intelligence can instruct the immune system to precisely attack the causes of autoimmune diseases, cancer, or diabetes. Injecting certain microscopic particles into the bloodstream deadens the nerves inside the tumors, shutting down their ability to communicate. A nanoghost is a breakthrough process that allows chemotherapy to sneak into the tumor cells like a Trojan horse. The brain. An Israeli scientist invented Exelon, which improves memory and awareness for thousands of Alzheimer's patients today. These 5 are probably very exciting to scientists and doctors, but I won't dwell on them myself. But I'll just mention mannitol, which is a sugar substitute. It's so cheap that the drug companies wouldn't fund its trials. So Israeli Parkinson's sufferer and entrepreneur Dan Vesely crowdfunded the trials and founded the company ClinicCrowd to further develop the treatment. But we all hope the coronavirus pandemic will be over by now, that we wouldn't need Israeli vaccines. But it looks like these could eventually be our saviors, as they all handle variants of the virus much better than the coronavirus vaccines currently available. All now are in human trials. And all these treatments are in human trials too. They've already saved dozens of lives in compassionate use in Israeli hospitals. Tel Aviv University scientists have even found recently that a specific seaweed has anti-COVID properties. Israelis have developed protection against COVID-19. They include nasal sprays, air filters, and disinfectants. An Israeli even invented a basketball hoop net that disinfects the ball when it passes through the hoop. There are numerous Israeli remedies for heart disease and diabetes. Before COVID, resistant bacteria was the major global concern. Luckily, Israelis are still working on it. Israeli scientists can print an ear that can hear, a heart that can beat, and they can make organs out of tobacco leaves. Watch this video of a heart being printed. So it comes out. Blink it, yeah, blink and you'll miss it. I'm gonna have to try. Again, tell me, well, it doesn't matter if you don't hear this one. That's the machine that prints the actual heart. It is speeded up, but even so, it makes him credible. Okay.
It's a dark screen right now.
Did you see that?
We don't see anything, Michael.
Did you see the printing?
No.
Okay, again, it's sorry about that.
Now we see it.
Right. Okay, I can see what I'm gonna have to do each time. Thank you. Okay. Right, do you see this back to the presentation slide?
We see the scientists make.
Okay, I know what's gonna have to do. Thank you. Okay. Again now?
Yep, we see it.
Back again. Okay, thank you. Right. Okay, I'm going to focus on, yeah. Right, yeah, sorry. I want to just highlight targeted personalized therapy, which is the future of medicine. No longer will one size fit all. It's your unique genetic profile that matters. I can send a sample of my microbiome to an Israeli startup called Day 2 in Rehovot. They will send back a report telling me what foods to avoid for my gastro-medical condition, which will be a completely different list to that for someone else with the same condition. Israeli medical devices help visually handicapped to read. Implants are fixing hearts and eyes. 2 Israeli companies make devices that instantly perform a complete blood test from a single drop of blood. And an Israeli startup is developing human testing of new medicines on a microchip, bypassing the animal testing stage entirely. Other medical innovations include robot-assisted surgery using Israeli-developed robots. Recent surgery used a bone implant to restore the sight of an Israeli Arab woman who had been blind for 20 years. Sorry. One of my favorite medical organizations is Save a Child's Heart, whose surgeons recently performed their 6,000th heart repair on a young Arab boy from Gaza. Moving from medical to my inclusive and global category, Israel looks after its disabled, who constitute some 20% of the population, probably a similar percentage in the States. The EMT paramedic organization, United Hatzalah, who have many disabled volunteers. There is one. Here are some of the Israeli organizations that support the disabled. There's even one for the siblings of disabled children who are often forgotten about. Point.ai is an Israeli startup that only employs people with autism because they are amazing at analyzing complex data. There are so many Israeli devices to help the disabled. Voice ITT turns garbled speech into clear speech. Microsoft Israel developed an Xbox specially for the disabled. And there are many Israeli organizations producing artificial limbs. These 3 devices feature in this next video, which I'll try and get on. I'll probably have to stop the share, start it again. Like that. Okay.
Allows people using it to get out into nature, into the community.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Right.
We envision a future in which ReWalk would be readily available for a vast majority of people via their insurance coverage, similar to other medical devices and technologies which are available today.
הילדים שלי לא מכירים אותי כאילו שאני עומד, אז ברגע הראשון שרואים אותי עומד, עד היום, הם דבר ראשון שאומרים שכאילו אבא אתה גבוה, אז זה נותן לי ממש את ההרגשה הנפשית טובה.
Eye control is a communication device for locked-in people, which means people who can only move their eyes. They are locked in their bodies. And eye control enables, by tracking the movements of the pupil, to transmit it to a small computer that generates the speech for those people and enables them to communicate 24/7. The device is wearable. We don't have any screen in the device, so instead of the visual feedback, we have an audio feedback so that the patient hears what he wants to say instead of see it. The founders in the company are related to locked-in patients, friends of, or even ALS patients themselves. And this is one of the major reasons why we started the company.
Green light.
We found that the hardest thing when someone is losing their sight is the lack of information. So we aim to provide people with as much information possible to help them with their daily lives.
Captain Crunch cereal.
So people can continue working, they can go shopping, they can pay their own bills and be independent, and they're never stuck alone. The Orca My Eye is a revolutionary smart camera that can tell you what it sees. And it is extremely useful for people with visual impairments. When you put the camera on your glasses, it'll read any text on any surface to you. It can be something that you hold in your hand, it could be a sign on the street.
Okay. Right, back to the slide. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
Right.
Quite remarkable.
Right. Thank you. I write almost every week about successful Israeli women. Israel is the best country for women entrepreneurs worldwide. Here are some other facts about Israeli women. It's too much to actually me to go through today. There are thousands of women in the Israeli army, air force, and police. Israel's Minister of the Economy is a woman, and she is also was a former Major General in the IDF. Going on to minorities in Israel. I love this photo. A Bedouin Arab in the IDF eating falafel with his family as two Ethiopian Israelis walk in. I'll start with Ethiopian Israelis because I have a personal affinity for them. In 1984, my wife and I flew from Eilat to Jerusalem and then to Tel Aviv, landing on a remote part of the airfield. There were dozens of Hercules C-4 transports on the runway. Next day, we read that Operation Moses had secretly brought over 8,000 Ethiopian Jews to Israel via Sudan. In 1991, we came to Israel on holiday and again saw dozens of Israeli transport planes on the runway. It was Operation Solomon, bringing over 14,000 Ethiopian Jews to Israel in 36 hours. They truly came on the wings of eagles, as we read in last week's portion of the Torah. Then in 2007, we made Aliyah. And as our El Al plane taxied to the gate, we stopped alongside a passenger jet from Ethiopian Airways. We came to live in Netanya, now home to some 30,000 Ethiopian Israelis. Some of our friends of ours have even adopted an Ethiopian Israeli whose first name is Michael, the same as mine. The priority for integrating Ethiopian Jews is education. Nearly half of young Ethiopians advance to higher education. Don't forget that less than 40 years ago, their parents and grandparents were living in mud huts.
Also, Titi comes from Netanya, who is Miss Israel and also the representative for JNF who came to speak in our congregation as well.
Yeah. Let me try doing this again. Can you see the screen there?
Yes.
Let's check it's on the right one. Okay.
Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm 28 years old.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Yes.
I was born in Israel. I served as a fighter in an infantry unit. I live in Netanya with my parents. I'm single. I'm a second-year business administration student. The Hanan Ainor Foundation offered me a $1,900 grant. This scholarship plus the discount in tuition fees by the Ono Academic College, allow us to focus on our studies instead of working to pay for them.
Out of some 18,000 students enrolled in this college, 400 are of Ethiopian origin.
Kendu, 35, married with 2 children, born in Ethiopia, in Israel since I was 12. I served in the 8200 intelligence unit. I'm a 4th-year law student. The academic year here costs 31,000 shekels, or $9,900 US, but I only pay 1/3 of it. I'm thankful to this institution for contributing to the success of my studies. It helps me a lot, especially during the pandemic, and partially financing my studies myself makes me even more motivated.
Right. Moving on to Muslims, who comprise almost 20% of Israelis. And they are integrated into all areas of Israeli society and employment. About 50% of Israel's medical staff are Muslims. The director of breast surgery at Tel Aviv's Ichilov Hospital is a female Muslim. Caucasians are Sunni Muslims who have insisted on taking the compulsory draft into the IDF. Bedouins, on the other hand, can volunteer to serve in the IDF, and 600 did so in 2020. By the way, Israel's soccer captain is a Caucasian Muslim. I have a great personal story about 2 Muslim twins, previously convicted of criminal offenses, who volunteered to join the IDF and now serve in the elite Golani unit. Also, there is a female Muslim IDF major. Arab media stated that some 100,000 worshippers prayed at Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound on Temple Mount on the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Adha. And there are some of them. And here is a photo of Jewish, Muslim, and Christian leaders who came together in Jerusalem to pray for the end to the coronavirus pandemic.
How'd that work out?
Still working on it. Here are some examples of Arab Muslims currently working in Israel. You'll see the Minister of Regional Cooperation in a video shortly. I'm afraid I've no time to tell you about all the Christians who live happily in Israel. I'll just mention George Deek, an Israeli Christian Arab who is Israel's ambassador to Azerbaijan. And on a air conditioning engineer is a Christian Arab, as is my wife's gastroenterologist. Again, I haven't got time to describe Israel's Druze minority in much detail, but they are also represented in all positions of Israeli society. The Druze followed Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, whom we read about in last week's Torah portion. Just to mention that the upcoming Winter Olympics, the bobsled team consists of 2 Jews and 3 Israeli Druze. They don't expect to get a medal, but they're just proud to represent Israel. And yes, the 6th member of the team is a dog. Following the 1994 Oslo Accords, the Palestinian Authority took over responsibility for all aspects of the Palestinian Arabs living over the Green Line and in Gaza. Again, I don't have time to include this subject in my presentation, but I strongly recommend you search my archive database with the keyword Palestinian to read the amazing positive relationship that Israel has with its neighbor, despite what you might read elsewhere. I just want to show you one video. Again, start it and try and let's stop the share and go back to share it properly. You should be able to hear this.
Israel is considered by many to be a major player in the world's tech industry.
Can you hear that?
Yes.
Good.
It's home to major high-tech companies like Microsoft and Intel, and its Israeli labs, which have come up with the first Motorola cell phone, the USB flash drive, the Waze GPS system, amongst other products we all take for granted nowadays. So it comes as no surprise that young, educated people find Israel a prime work destination. But Inas never did.
Even during my studies, I did not expect to work in Israel in high-tech. It was unimaginable. I thought I might work abroad. We grow up with the image that we, the Palestinians, can work in construction, agriculture, maybe in plants, but not in high-tech. We had no chance.
Each morning, Inas and her father leave their home in the West Bank city of Tulkarm, northeast of Tel Aviv. The father to work in agriculture, Inas and her laptop to her office.
I'm making more money than my father. He works hard, but that's what he wants.
Approximately 500 to 1,000 Palestinians work in Israeli high-tech companies. Only last month, the Israeli government approved 500 high-tech positions for Palestinians to work in Israel.
We're opening the high-tech market for the Palestinian worker. It's good for Israel, it's good for the Palestinian Authority, it's good for the companies that are looking for outsourcing in India and East Europe, when right next to us there are high-tech graduates from the university who can earn good money and we can enjoy their contribution.
It's a win-win situation. The companies recruit high-quality personnel. And on the other side, the Palestinian employees have a chance to earn more money in a developed high-tech environment.
Again. Dr. Rafet Kubaja goes through the security checkpoints every day to conduct research at Israel's Weizmann Institute in Rehovot. I heard Weizmann mentioned earlier in people connected to the your organization. He actually does research and found that trees in arid regions can absorb vast amounts of carbon dioxide. But what he says is important. Several of my extended family are studying in Israel. I tell them it's not like what they see on television. No door has ever been closed in my face, and I have always experienced trust between people. Why go elsewhere when great science is right next door? Going on to the Arab states themselves. I hope everyone remembers the signing of the Abraham Accords. I took this photo from my TV screen. It was certainly beyond anything us Israelis could imagine. The flight captain of the first commercial passenger flight from the UAE to Israel said on the tarmac of Ben Gurion Airport, if someone asked me a few months ago if I would be here making a speech in Tel Aviv, I would have said, this is impossible. The Abraham Accords, initially between Israel, United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain, has since been expanded to include Sudan and Morocco. Sudanese media even recently reported that an Israeli delegation visited Sudan and mediated between military leader al-Burhan and ousted Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok. More than 200 Israeli companies are already exporting products to the UAE. But in truth, Israel has been trading with Arab countries for a long time. The mayor of Haifa, Yona Yahav, confirmed on Al Jazeera TV that Israeli port has been secretly facilitating imports and exports to and from Iraq for a long time. Iraq views the Haifa route as much more direct, cost-efficient, and safer than the alternative maritime route through the Persian Gulf. So trucks from Jordan carrying Iraqi merchandise arrive overland at the Haifa port and unload it onto ships that travel to Europe through the Mediterranean Sea. Imagine that.
Shocking.
Yeah. Looking at the world. This is a photo of Pope Francis arriving to hold a mass for 60,000 worshippers in Slovakia in September. In the foreground, you can see an Israeli anti-drone defense system, which intercepted a rogue drone that tried to disrupt the service. Another Israeli drone company is protecting the World Expo, currently being held in Dubai. Israel has now delivered 2 Iron Dome defense systems to the United States to help defend American soldiers. Israel hosted the 3-day Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development Security Virtual Forum in June. And I think hopefully, can you see that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, I'm gonna have to share, stop and share again. Sorry. Now?
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. When French President Emmanuel Macron landed at Ben Gurion Airport, the defense system from Israel's Elbit was clearly visible on the underside of his plane. The United Nations launches more attacks on Israel than any of the other nations combined, but that's its political wing. There is another side to the UN where Israel is very influential. It has passed Israeli-led resolutions. It has partnered with Israel's proposal on agriculture. Israel was elected to the board of the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. And Israel co-heads the UN Science, Technology and Innovation Forum. Israel is at the forefront of global agricultural training, and these are some examples. Mashav, that's Israel's development organization, has helped train 300,000 participants from 140 countries since 1958. It's set up 50 training centers around the globe, including this one you can see here in India. And Israel is helping India's goal of providing water to all its citizens. There is an Israeli president of the Council of CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research. 13 Israelis have won Nobel Prizes. The Technion actually sent me 2 ties, signed by Dan Schechter and Aaron Chikanber, probably because I'm British. Incidentally, Aaron Chikanber currently works for that Israeli startup that I mentioned earlier, the one that was building a platform for human testing of medicines on a chip. Moving on to Israel's work in humanitarian aid, one of my favorite NGOs is Innovation Africa. This video shows what can be achieved in 1 year. Staying on the subject of COVID, the Israeli government has donated 1 million vaccines to the UN-backed COVAX program. Israeli NGOs and hospitals have been providing aid to the world. Israeli pandemic support has reached all 5 continents, and is in Asia, even to Iraq. And in the USA, Israel's United Hatzalah partnered with doctors in New Jersey to provide psychological aid to personnel on the COVID front lines.
Michael, we had Yotam Politzer come and visit us at our synagogue and gave a great presentation of Israel Aid. I want to say probably 5-10 years ago, but phenomenal program.
Yeah, it's been going on, and They say after almost every natural or unnatural disaster, Israel sends aid and rescue teams. And it's been to Haiti now twice, because they've had 2 major earthquakes. But I just want to show you this video on Albania, which is a Muslim country. Yes, thank you. I'm just going to stop the share.
You take your gear, you're going on an airplane, and you don't know what you're going to experience in that country. The only thing in your mind is go and help people. I'm an engineer of the IDF Search and Rescue Unit. On the 26th of November 2019, there was a big earthquake in Albania. The Israeli government decided to send the Search and Rescue Unit to Albania to help. 10 engineers and 2 commanders to help them to do inspections of houses and to help the local people of Albania.
Ten years after the Japanese tsunami, one of the mayors of Japan said, "We will never forget Israel's help." As you can see on this slide, it's not only after disasters that Israel springs into action. And Israel will always be there when our American allies need help. I'm going to cover 3 aspects of Israeli technological innovations briefly. First, just a few photos to give you a flavor of Israeli solar power technology. From the Dead Sea to the Red Sea, 100% of daytime electricity now comes from solar power, including Eilat. But one of the biggest problems with solar power is how to store it. This Israeli company stores it underground as compressed air. Here are some other innovations. Water from the air, solar power, flexible solar panels. The Knesset roof is the largest parliament solar roof in the world. It generates all the electricity the Knesset complex requires. Other implementations include a kibbutz powered entirely on solar energy and even a solar sukkah. Here are some other Israeli energy innovations. Stordot. With PowerMat, you visit a Starbucks, put your smartphone on the table, the PowerMat under the table will recharge your phone while you drink your coffee. However, hydrogen is definitely the fuel of the future.
Today, hydrogen is produced at a phenomenal rate of about 65 million tons a year. And most of it is produced from natural gas. And in this process, about 10 tons of CO2 are emitted for every ton of hydrogen produced. The expectation is that over the next 20 years, the amount of hydrogen produced will be tripled. And in order for that to happen without grossly polluting the atmosphere, that hydrogen has to come from water electrolysis. What we have invented here is a new process to carry out water electrolysis. This process will enable using hydrogen as the fuel of the future.
That was 3 years ago. Now today.
Green hydrogen is the perfect fossil fuel replacement. You can burn it like fossil fuel or convert it into electricity using a fuel cell with no CO2 emissions. Only water is emitted. Meet ETAC, a disruptive way of producing hydrogen from water.
ETAC is the first technology to deliver energy efficiency of 95%. That's compared to 70% of water electrolysis. ETAC devices are inexpensive, they are scalable, safer, and operate at higher pressure.
By 2023, we will deliver green hydrogen at under $2 per kilogram, and later this decade at under $1. We founded H2 Pro 2 years ago based on technology developed by my co-founders at the Technion. Today, we're a team of over 70 people working hard to bring $1 green hydrogen at scale this decade. Our future may depend on it. Imagine a world where we can fuel our industry, store renewable energy, heat our homes, power our vehicles, ships and airplanes with green, environmentally friendly hydrogen for less than we pay today. Wouldn't that be amazing?
H2 Pro was actually named as the innovation that could generate the biggest potential benefit to the world's energy requirements. There are many Israeli companies and scientists working on removing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, bacteria to eat CO2, converting CO2 into fuel, and those trees in the desert you saw earlier that capture vast amounts of CO2. Another, Israel's High Hopes Labs, is creating a fleet of balloons that can each capture a ton of CO2. 10 miles high in the atmosphere, carbon dioxide freezes and becomes easy to remove. Moving from energy to ecology, potentially world-changing innovations include an electric airplane. It's called Alice. It was exhibited at the Paris Air Show. Recycling, garbage disposal is a big problem. Israel's UBQ converts waste plastic into thermoplastic material for all kinds of use, from storage bins to McDonald's serving trays. And it can even process face masks. I haven't time to mention all the Israeli interventions to save the world's coral reefs from being destroyed. But Israel is doing so much work to save the bee. Please watch this video to see what one Israeli startup is doing. It's called BeeWise.
Avocados, berries, apples, coffee. Imagine a world where none of these exist. 30% of the global food supply depends on a single species, the bee. In the same year the bee was declared the most important living being on Earth, more than 35% of the world's bees died. From lethal parasites to pesticides and disease, survival. Unfortunately, today's beekeepers cannot address these modern challenges with 150-year-old technology, a wooden box.
At BeeWise, we've completely redesigned the beehive using artificial intelligence and advanced robotics. It is our responsibility, as the world's most capable species, to protect our most valuable neighbors here on planet Earth, and by that, protect the entire world. Our autonomous beehive, the first of its kind, monitors every bee, providing them with real-time care and support. We are revolutionizing beekeeping and saving billions of bees' lives. To save the bees, we don't need to think outside the box. We need to reinvent the box.
Get now beyond this one, excuse me. Try and do this again. Sorry about this. Okay. That's really. Right. Okay. Yeah, I think I'll do it. Excuse me. Right. Okay. After all that mucking around, sorry about that. Yeah. So that video really sums up my entire ethos, which is, sorry for the pun, be positive. In fact, it's in my blood. How do I know? Because it's also my blood group. Be positive is my blood group. Okay, due to lack of time, I can only show you some pictures of Israeli agriculture and food innovations, but I must show you some of these photos. This is the tomatoes that Israel has grown, which is resistant to a disease, a virus, which is killing 50% of all the tomato crops in the world. Vertical farms. These grow vertically, as it says, and saving land mass. And when they're put in actually at supermarkets, like Rami Levy in this country has got vertical farms in their car parks, it obviously saves transportation costs and pollution from those from bringing that there. And it gives you fresh food when you need it. There are hydroponic farms, which is where crops are growing in water, not in soil. Some on the roof of actual buildings. Also hydroponics in Dead Sea greenhouses. 40% of our food globally is thrown away before it even reaches the customer. And this is one of the companies that has got a solution to expiring food. The sensor turns from green to red when it nears the food nears the expiry date. You may have heard about all the ways Israel has got of producing what looks like meat but isn't meat. 3D printed meat is one of them, and that in the middle you can see a 3D printer, which perhaps one day you will have in your kitchen to print what you can taste like meat but certainly isn't. Never came from an animal. Right, I just want to show you this video because when rice is cultivated, when it's grown in flooded paddy fields, it causes production of vast amount of methane. When the fertilizer decomposes and the crops themselves start rotting underneath the water, also wastes huge amounts of water. So I'm going to show you a video on that.
The rice cultivation in the world is responsible for 10% of the gas of methane emissions to the world. It's equivalent to all what the aviation industry sends methane to the world every year. And with our solution, it goes to zero.
The solution, none other than drip irrigation. Originally developed decades ago to help transform Israel's arid landscape into acres upon acres of farmable produce, Netafim's incredible drip irrigation technology is now being reworked worldwide for rice and a host of other crops. And the results are amazing.
We have finished the beta stage. That means we have 1,000 hectares commercially grown in many countries all over the world. Italy, India, Turkey.
with great results and farmers that achieving the goals of saving 70% water, zero methane emission, and great yields.
I don't have time again to present even a small percentage of the technical innovations in high tech that Israelis have made. Israeli engineers lead the world in developing computer technology. I'm giving this presentation on my new laptop with an Israeli developed 11th generation Intel processor inside. But now Intel have just launched a 12th generation. Sorry. Israel smartphone technology can make take your blood pressure, check your blood sugar, check your kidneys, or analyze your mental state. They can make 3D holograms of yourself, check your food for toxins, trace leaky pipes, or rescue people trapped under collapsed buildings. Showed you that too early. Yeah, I'm not supposed to talk about water, sorry, but that's Israeli desalination, both in Israel and in other countries as well as in, you can see there in California. I will touch on autonomous cars. In a few years, self-driving cars will be commonplace on our roads, thanks to Israeli technology. Israel doesn't make cars, but Israeli companies like Mobileye are building autonomous systems for almost every car company in the world. Mobileye actually has been shown they can actually control cars driving on the road around Manhattan, Las Vegas, and Jerusalem. We could debate which of those cities it is most difficult to navigate. The first car that I will buy in Israel will be self-driving. I will tell it where I want to go and then have a nice sleep in the back seat as it takes me to my destination. Or I might wait and get myself an Israeli self-driving flying car, 6-seater, powered by hydrogen, of course. So all this I can cover in a future presentation. And these are the areas in my newsletter, which I'm not going to cover at the moment. But don't forget to search israelactive.com for details of all these Israeli innovations and activities and more. And finally, space, the final frontier. Let's put my cap on for this. You will probably remember the attempt by Israel's Space IL to land a spacecraft on the moon. It successfully went into lunar orbit, but crashed on the moon's surface. Yeah, some Israeli technology does fail the first time, but they always try again. And the United Arab Emirates is joining with Israel on the next Space IL project to land 2 spacecraft on the moon. And I would definitely be wearing my Space IL cap when that happens. Israeli technology is currently analyzing the sun's corona on NASA's Parker Solar Probe. My last will show my website address and the email address if you want to have a free email subscription to my weekly newsletter. But before that, I want to show you something really inspiring. Children in schools across Israel built 8 tiny satellites, which were launched just the other week from Cape Canaveral on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Just see the excitement on their faces as they gathered in Herzliya, just down the road from me here in Tanya, to watch the culmination of 3 years' work.
מוכנים? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. יש לנו ליפט-אוף! לווייני תבל בדרך לחלל. כמה חיכינו לזה, כמה חיכינו לזה! אני מצטער, אבל אין לי מילים.
תנסו למחוא כפיים קצת עם הטלפונים.
What those Israeli children will be able to achieve by the end of this decade is truly beyond our imagination. Thank you for watching. Sorry about some of the technical glitches, but I hope it gave you a different perception on what Israel and Israelis are doing here. Thank you very much. Any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Michael, for an extraordinary presentation. It was riveting, and there's so much that I'm sure that most of us don't see in the news, whether it's online or whether it's on the telly or whether it's in print somewhere. But for sure, this is Startup Nation, just a snippet, just a tiny bit of what we know that happens in Israel. And you really captured quite a bit, and it was quite captivating. So I must say, from that printing of the heart, going all the way to the fake meat that Sue commented to me that as a vegetarian, that might be of interest to me. I became a vegetarian 48 years ago when I was inducted to the IDF. So that was the best time to be a vegetarian, of course. No comments on that now. Okay, so we're going to take some questions now. And if you want to write something in the chat, I'll have Dave monitor the chat. Or if you want to raise your hand, a la Zoom. I see already Barry here with the first hand up that I saw. So Barry, can you unmute yourself, or do I need to do that?
We're good. We're all good.
You're good. Thanks.
So first of all, Todah Gadol, wonderful, beautiful thing to be seeing all this wonderful news coming out of Israel. But I have a question. You're a one-man operation. Does the Israeli government or the private companies have PR firms that work to put this out to the world so that the image of Israel becomes a little bit more positive than the negative that everybody thinks about us?
Yeah, it's been one of the problems for many years that the Israeli government hasn't really concentrated on PR. It just has started just recently. The latest government has put together its PR forum again, but it hasn't really started to obviously work yet. Most of this PR work is done by NGOs. Israel 21C, you probably know about, No Camels, another one, and plenty of these organizations, which I actually take their information and put in my newsletter. No, it's apart from organizations like Israel Bonds and that use this, that go out to the world, it's still very, very, very difficult to get through to it. But as you see, everybody seems to know about Israel's good because they use it, and they don't, it's not disguised. It's just almost a political side is like separate to, the innovations. Investment has gone into Israeli startups in the last year. It's phenomenal. These are mostly foreign investors. Governments, they know what Israel is capable of, and this is why countries like the UAE and Bahrain and Sudan and Morocco, despite all the bribery that went on to get some of them to join, but they have been dealing with us in Israel for a long time. So your question is very valid. It should be more publicized. Hopefully, I'm trying to publicize it myself, but I'm asking people to pass on the information to others, because that's the only way they can see it. Not only to people who are pro-Israel, but to people who don't, who need to know about Israel's good news.
Great, thank you. Lois, you're the second person I've seen with the hand raised.
Hi, thank you. I wonder if you could repeat what the school children were so excited about with that launching at the very end. I didn't quite catch what their involvement was.
I see, yes. Yeah, they built 8 nano satellites across Israel in schools, and they've been taken over 3 years to build these satellites. Each one does different experiments. Some of them are communication type experiments, and they had them all taken to Cape Canaveral for launching on that space rockets. They're going up into space. They'll do their experiments and then produce. The results will obviously be used in research. Some of them in some of the universities in Israel.
Thank you.
Alan, you had a comment you wanted to make there.
Yeah, one thing that Michael didn't mention, he mentioned that his wife's gastroenterologist was an Arab. We actually recommended him to her because he's fantastic. And when friends who were doctors didn't think I had a serious problem, he kept digging and ordering more tests until they managed to, and finally MRIs, CAT scans and so on. And he said, there's something there. And finally a biopsy. And that's when they diagnosed my pancreatic cancer. Fortunately, a rare kind that's treatable. And we thought he was wonderful. And the first few times I saw him, I didn't realize he was Arab. I mean, you really, for some of us, you can't tell, but that's inclusivity in Israel.
I wondered why we couldn't say, and I didn't know he's Arab until we couldn't get an appointment to his Netanya surgery. And we saw that on the internet, on the Maccabi website, we could get an appointment next week in the Arab town where he actually lived. So we actually got a very fast appointment there. And then he apologized and saying, well, you shouldn't have had to come out here. And I said, well, it's no problem. It's, to get an appointment with the specialist, that we'll travel the whole of Israel.
Wonderful, wonderful. Great to hear. I see Ada, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I just wanted you to know, Michael, I don't know if you're aware, in 1999, a whole group of us, a small group of us, established the Forgotten People Fund, which helps Ethiopians. And this year, I'm proud to say that with the COVID, we did a lot of hard work and we raised 1 million shekel to provide our Ethiopian families, which it started, we had 18,000 at the beginning. We now have 30,000 Ethiopians in Netanya, which is the largest center of Ethiopian Jews living in a city. And we have a terrific scholarship program. We give out laptops, and we give each scholarship student 1,000 shekel a month, so that he can survive and not have to go to work, which is really wonderful. I also want to tell you that one of the things that we have in Israel is every health fund has a pharmacy, and most of the pharmacists are Arabs. They're wonderful. They're absolutely wonderful. So we don't know about all this integration. That's the problem.
Right. Thank you so much. That's quite remarkable what you're doing there in Netanya.
Thank you.
What everyone is doing everywhere, of course, across the country, and integrating Ethiopians as well as Arabs.
We're quite friendly with Anne and David Silverman, who you probably know, of the Forgotten People Front. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that, Ada.
Anne and David started the Forgotten People Fund with my husband and me. We were the founders.
Well, kol hakavod. Yeah. Let me see. Are there any? Yes, I see Ruth Kaplan with the hand up. And then Mike Richmond.
Hi, Michael. I'm actually a subscriber of yours, so I do really enjoy. I found out about you through Alan, excuse me, through Alan Stein. But I guess my question is, first of all, could you say again how many subscribers you have? That's my first question. And secondly, how is what you do different from Israel 21C and No Camels? Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Certainly, yeah. I have 3,000 direct email subscribers, and obviously on the website get hit by many thousands more. And then on the other syndicated websites like United with Israel, it's got 1 million subscribers, but not all of them hit that. But when they publicize my newsletter, it gets thousands of hits each week. And of course, the newsletter is then forwarded by quite a number of organizations and individuals. The second question you said was difference. Well, in fact, I say I steal, I borrow, I take the information from Israel 21C and No Camels. What they do is they focus on a particular story and go into a lot of detail in those stories. And what I do is just summarize that story in 3 lines and again give the link back to Israel 21C. So where they would do maybe 5 or 6 articles in a week, yeah, I put 50 out, and that would be sort of like maybe 10% of them would be from Israel 21C. So it's more or less giving bulk and showing you the quantity of what's going on in Israel. They're showing you the quality. I'm showing you the vast amount. It's so many, I have to stop at 50. My wife tells me I can't put more than 50 in the newsletter. People just won't read more than 50. But you know, there are really hundreds and hundreds every week. And I just have to say, well, you know, I just have to pass over them. It's almost sad to miss out them because some of them are really very good. And sometimes I would put them into my database, but not actually put them in the newsletter because, you know, I'll just give people a small percentage of what actually is going on.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Also, do you publicize or do you have any connections to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel so that they know what you're doing and utilize your information? I see you're smiling.
I don't have I tried to get some feedback from the Israeli government and didn't get any, but recently, very recently, I was very surprised. I got an invitation from the government press office to go and hear Naftali Bennett speak at the end of the year in his end of year address to journalists. So maybe they have picked me up somehow. But I told them that, well, I'm not going to travel to Jerusalem just to hear him speak to a load of journalists. It's a long way from here. It's 2 hours trip. So I said,
Kfar Saba then.
Yeah, I said I couldn't. He lives down around the road. So I said I couldn't come. And the next day he cancelled the whole thing. I thought, oh, that's nice, you know. I couldn't make it, so he cancelled it. He said it was to do with COVID, but that may not be the case. But yeah, I've had other invites, and they now do webinars. There was a very good one. One of the government health minister gave a webinar. So it's starting to happen. I send the newsletter out in Hebrew because it's translated by one of my my contacts into Hebrew every week. I send that out to a lot of Israelis. My wife gives out also details to everybody she meets who's an Israeli and says you can read it in Hebrew. So yeah, so it goes out to foreign dignitaries, but they don't come back. I think it's very much compartmentalized in the Israeli government, and it seems to be very difficult to get hold of them. Any ideas from people like Barry and Alan would be gratefully received.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Ruth has been definitely immersed and very much involved with our Boston Haifa connection. Haifa is our sister city in Israel. She's done extraordinary work with that. Okay, I think Mike Richmond or Bob Richmond was next, if they're still on.
Yes. The question your newsletter is so informative, and I would hope it would be, the information would be spread widely. And I was just wondering 2 things. One is, you said there's a subscription of about 3,000. Do you have information in terms of what the number is in the United States? And second question is, do you have anyone working with you to help put out this information?
Most of my readers are in the United States. I think something about 70, 80% probably. I can get that from, I use an email distribution service called MailChimp, and it gives me the stats of locations. So, and that's where I found that even about 7 or 8 years ago, I was getting hits from the United Arab Emirates, and it's quite amazing. Pakistan, and you know, you could see that people were reading it all the way around the world. But in terms of support, people working with me, no, I read desperately. I mean, I'm 65, right? Probably got another 10 years in me, but I would like to hand this over to another, an organization even. It probably would be something like United with Israel, who've got staff who can probably run it. It will be different to the way I do it. Probably it takes up sort of 4.5 days of my time each week to do it. So it's quite a laborious process, even with the technology I've got now. But yeah, I'm always looking for volunteers to help. Maybe do a 1 week, they could take over it and do it. But it's a lot of difficult to organize. Where's your sources going to come from? Getting those sources to the person doing it. At the moment, logistics is going to be the difficult thing, I think. But one day it's going to have to be done.
Great. Are there any other hands up that I'm missing here? And if not, I know this has been a fun-filled morning program here with extraordinary information. And I'm sure everybody has learned something new here. That's for sure. I know I have. And I follow probably pretty religiously the news in Israel, at least 12 hours a day. So at any rate, want to thank Michael Ordman once again for an amazing presentation. Your passion for Israel, your passion for technology and innovation and all that happens in Israel shines through in your presentation here. And I hope that people will sign up for your newsletter and participate in that in any way they feel comfortable. And I want to thank everybody here. Once again to Alan and Masha Stein for bringing Michael, and of course to Dave and Ann for their parts in making sure that this ran smoothly, and to the Sisterhood for supporting this for many years with us, and to Harvey Stone, and to all of you who are passionate about Israel that participate in our programming. Thank you all so much, and wish you a wonderful rest of the day for those of us in the States, and those in other parts of the world, in Netanya and other places, may have a good evening. So, okay. Thank you all, and Shalom Rav to all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Doobie.
Thank you, Doobie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Excellent.
And Kurt, I lost my bet. I thought you'd have the first question.
Thank you, Michael. We love your newsletter.
Kurt Linden is a very strong supporter of the Technion. He's been honored by the Technion. And we greatly appreciate everything that Kurt Linden brings to our congregation and to Israel. Okay.